तव कथामृतम् तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीरितम् कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. So the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, the master with the Brahmo devotees. So his conversation with the Brahmo devotees continues. So the need of a guru. Brahmo. Is spiritual knowledge impossible without a guru? Master. Satchidananda alone is the guru. If a man in the form of a guru awakens spiritual consciousness in you, then know for certain that it is God the Absolute who has assumed that human form for your sake. So, the entire purpose of creation is the union with the divine. The God was one, he has become many to enjoy the bliss of communion with the so-called the individuals, the jiva. He alone has become everything. And to enjoy the communion with the divine is the purpose of his creation. But because of Maya, because of the ignorance, the beings forget that after all, it is God and God alone who is the be-all and end-all of existence. And because of the Guna Maya, as has been spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita, they get distracted. They get drawn towards the world of the senses. Now, to bring them back from the world of senses so that the divine can enjoy the communion with his devotees, he himself incarnates, is a special incarnation. That we are deluded by the Maya, that is Guna Maya, and he resorts to his own Maya, and that's known as the Yoga Maya. These are the two forms of Maya, as has been spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita. By resorting to the Yoga Maya, he takes a human form, comes down, sports with the devotees, and shows them the way out from this quagmire of worldly existence. So by resorting to his Leela, we can reach the Nitya. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna in some other context in the Gospel has spoken of. That Leela dhore dhore Nitya Pochana. That God comes down, he descends and sports as a human being. That sport is called as the Leela. And resorting to that Leela, by contemplating on that Leela, an ordinary human being can at last reach the Absolute. So we find even in all the Vaishnava Shastras, they say that there are twofold purpose of the God's incarnation. That why he incarnates. That as in the Bhagavad Gita, we find it is mentioned that paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. That to rid the world from the wicked and to save the so-called the devotees, those who are spiritually oriented, to save them, to give them an environment where they can proceed with the spiritual journey. So that's the purpose of his incarnation. But in the Vaishnava scriptures, very nicely Sri Ramakrishna indicates, they say a very nice thing, that as the elephant has two sets of teeth, the tusks are the external truth. It is just a mere show. It cannot, so what you say, that have its food. It cannot masticate its food with the help of those tusks. It's more of an ornamentation. It can have its food with the help of the teeth, which is not visible. So Sri Ramakrishna is indicating that in the Vaishnava Shastra, they say that this paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam, this idea of the divine, the purpose of the divine to come, to incarnate, to save the world, to save the devotees, to save the spiritually minded from the so-called all the evils. His purpose of incarnation, that is just like the external task. It's more decorative. The real purpose is to enjoy the bliss of communion with the devotees. So that's what has been mentioned in the Bhagavatam, that the Krishna's incarnation is for his lila with the gopis, with the gopas, with the gopis. That's the real purpose. So that the God can again enjoy the communion with his divine, with his devotee. And for that, he himself incarnates again and again to show the way to the people who are lost in this quagmire of Maya, to turn their direction. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating, that if you see that is a human, the God alone is the Guru, and if you see a Guru in the human form, know it for certain, it is the divine and divine alone who has taken that form to take us out from this quagmire of worldly existence. So Satchidananda alone is the Guru. If a man in the form of a Guru awakens spiritual consciousness in you, then know for certain that it is God, the Absolute, who has assumed that human form for your sake. The Guru is like a companion who leads you by the hand. After the realization of God, one loses the distinction between the Guru and the disciple. That creates a very difficult situation, that the Guru and the disciple do not see each other. So in Bengali, it's actually a couplet which Sri Ramakrishna is saying that She boro kothin thai, Guru shishye dekha nai. So that's the translation that creates a very difficult situation. She boro kothin thai. It's very difficult to translate. But just to get an idea, the translation, what it is saying, that creates a very difficult situation that the Guru and the disciple do not see each other. What's the idea? That after all, the ultimate goal of all spiritual evolution is to get established in that unity. That is the God alone who has become the entire existence. At last, we merge in the divine. We become one with the divine. And all the duality falls off there. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is indicating that ultimately, that there is a need of Guru in our spiritual journey. Yes, what I have said is true. But as you evolve spiritually, when you get more and more identified with the spiritual dimension of existence, then all the duality starts falling off. Where who is Guru? The Guru, the Shishya, everything is one with the Absolute. So Shevaro Kotin Thai, Guru Shishya Dakhanai. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating, that once one attains illumination, all the duality falls off. And then it was for this reason that Sri Ramakrishna is saying, very interesting, that Janaka said to Shukadeva, but for this reason, Janaka said to Shukadeva, what he said? Give me first my teacher's fee if you want me to initiate you into the knowledge of Brahman. Now Shukadeva went to Janaka for being initiated in the knowledge of Brahman. And Janaka says, first give me the fee. That why first give me the fee? That before imparting the knowledge, first you give me the fee. So that's very interesting. He's saying that for the distinction between the teacher and the disciple ceases to exist after the disciple attains to Brahman. The relationship between them remains as long as the disciple does not see God. So he's speaking of that ultimate Advaitic realization. That is the ultimate. But there are various other stages in our spiritual journey, which also he will be indicating. That even if we have not went to that ultimate unity, but if we have got absorbed with the divine, that too is liberation. And that he will be indicating as he gradually proceeds in his discussion. So, what he's saying, it was dusk, some of the Brahmo devotees said to the master, perhaps it is time for your evening devotions. Master, no, it isn't exactly that. One should pass through these disciplines in the beginning. Later, one doesn't need the rituals of formal worship or to follow the injunctions. So, what's the idea? That as you proceed in spiritual journey, that we will find in the scripture it is mentioned that for a realized soul, there is no vidhi, no nisheda. There are no do's and don'ts. Then, do they have the right to be licentious? That they can do whatever they want? As in Bengali, we say, Jothechachar. No, that doesn't indicate that. What actually it indicates? It indicates that as you become more and more established in spirituality, as you become more and more, as you develop more and more devotion, this devotion becomes a spontaneous thing in your life. So you need not have to consciously practice spiritual disciplines. That has become a spontaneity. Your love for God has become a spontaneity. And as a result, what happens? Whatever you may be doing, that your love of God is always there. So you need not follow the injunctions that at a certain time, in the morning, in the dawn, in the dusk, I have to do certain spiritual practices to commune with the divine. As the thought of the divine is always there, so he has transcended all those vidhis and nishadas, all those do's and don'ts. Just to give a common example, that in the hostel, in a school hostel, we find that there is a routine from the morning till the evening to keep the students disciplined. There is a routine. Otherwise, students won't study. They will be always distracted. So there is a fixed hour for their studies, for their going to the prayer, for a play, for school, everything, the fixed time out there. Now, the student who has developed love for study, there are some students whom you won't have to say, let's sit down for studying. They have developed love for the study. Though they are following the routine, but that routine as such is not needed for them. Even the routine is not there, they will study. So that's what means by transcending. So that routine is not needed for them, is not required for them, but that doesn't mean he doesn't follow the routine. He is following the routine not because of the injunction. That has become his spontaneous habit. Because of his love, his passion for the studies, it has become something spontaneous. So whether the routine is there or not, he's disciplined. So that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. When he says that perhaps it is the time for your evening devotions, what he's saying, no, it isn't exactly that. One should pass through these disciplines in the beginning. Later, one doesn't need the rituals of formal worship or to follow the injunctions. So that doesn't mean he has free to just lead the life as he wish. The thought of the God is spontaneous throughout the day. What's the need of just keeping your mind in a particular time? It is always constantly thinking of the divine. So all those injunctions have no use. So, and then after dusk, the preacher of Brahma Samaj conducted the service from the pulpit. The service was interspersed with recitations from the Upanishads and the singing of Brahmo songs. After the service, the master and the preacher conversed. Master, well, it seems to me that both the formless deity and God with form are real. What do you say? Preacher, sir, I compare the formless God to the electric current, which is not seen with the eyes but can be felt. Master, yes, both are true. God with form is as real as God without form. Do you know what describing God as being formless only is like? It is like a man's playing only a monotone on his flute, though it has 7 holes. But on this same instrument, another man plays different melodies. Likewise, in how many ways the believers in a personal God enjoy Him. They enjoy Him through many different attitudes: the serene attitude, the attitude of a servant, a friend, a mother, a husband, or a lover. So, all the various bhavas in the Vaishnava literature is mentioned. Shanta, that's the serene attitude, is the Shanta. The attitude of a servant is Dasya, of a friend, Sakhya, mother. This mother is Vatsalya. And husband is, this lover is the Madhura Bhava. So why all this? That, and these are all gradations actually. That gradually, as you become more and more devoted to the Lord, so these bhavas are more and more intense. The Shanta is something where the devotion has just developed. That to stop the distraction of the mind, you resort to the thought of the God and your mind is calm. But you're yet to develop a relationship with the divine. So that's also good. That's the Shanta. This Dasya. Dasya means the Lord is the master, I am the servant. So when it happens for a devotee, when still he is yet to get established in love, he is constantly following the injunctions. He knows the master is there. If he doesn't follow the injunctions, that for that he will have to accrue the results of his action, karma phala. So for good, he will get good actions. So the master is there. He is there, always looking after him. And just if he does any mistake, he will be punished. If he does all the good things, for that he will be rewarded. So that's the attitude with which he relates to God. The question of fear is still there. But as the love increases more and more, then what happens? Then you become as if sakha. The fear factor has gone. There's no fear, just the way you have no fear in presence of your friend. You can relate all this or your feelings to your friend. So when your devotion gets more and more matured, you relate to the divine as Sakha. As Swami Vivekananda very nicely in Bhakti Yoga is indicating that the entire world is God's Leela and we are his playmate. That this is his sporting ground and we are all his playmate. So that's the idea of Sakha. That's why when your love has increased, that fear factor has gone. No more, where there is fear, there cannot be love. The first proof of love is fearlessness. Swami Vivekananda used to give wonderful examples. That is to say, a young mother passing down the street. She's passing down the street. She's alone and a dog barks. From nowhere, a dog barks and she runs. She's so scared just by hearing the bark of the dog. She haven't even seen the dog. Just by hearing the bark, she runs. And next day, she is walking down the street with her child, that she's holding the child. And now Swamiji says, what to speak of the barking of a dog? If a lion comes in front, today you will find the mother is facing the lion, guarding the child. So the same mother who was so scared by the barking of the dog, today she has tremendous courage. From where that courage came? The courage came because of the love, tremendous love. So she is ready to sacrifice her life for the sake of the children. So love, where there is real love, there cannot be fear. So when the devotion has grown, you have outgrown that fear factor. And then that you relate to the divine as Sakha, as a friend. And then still when the devotion increases, then what happens? You become as if the parent and the Lord becomes, you become the mother, the Lord becomes your children. So that Sri Ramakrishna says that God becomes small, you are bigger. So the love is growing now. So now there's no fear at all. The total fear factor has gone. So this, when you have developed more and more in love, that's as if you have to take care of God. That's the idea of Vatsalya. And then this, the Madhura Bhava, like relating to the husband. And in that Sri Ramakrishna is giving a very nice thing, that's a much more higher form of love. In that, all other loves are included. All other loves are included. Sri Ramakrishna is saying that the wife is sometimes less like a friend to the husband. And when she's feeding the husband, she's just like the mother. So we will find all the bhavas are culminated in that Madhura Bhava. And ultimate, that lover is something that we find that when the love, when there is a love which is by the society considered as illicit, that someone has fallen in love with a paramour, the love has become so intense that she or he will forget all the social norms, the fear of the society, everything falls off. He or she will run after the paramour, forgetting every norms. So that's the idea of transcendence. So when the love becomes very intense, all the social norms fall off. You become so intensely absorbed with the divine. So now you find there's so many gradations, that we have all these emotional faculties as a human being, and I resort to them one by one to evolve spiritually. But the one who is just that, having this relationship with the divine as the formless aspect, he cannot relate to the divine in all this relationship. So it becomes something like a monotone. Now Sri Ramakrishna is giving a nice example. A flute has 7 holes. I can use all the holes, but if I just with my finger press all the holes and keep only one hole open and blow through the flute, I will just get a noise, a monotone will come. I cannot get a music out of it. Sri Ramakrishna says, as a human being, we have so many emotional faculties. Why not use them to intensify your spiritual practices so that it accelerates your spiritual journey? Your life becomes something full of music. Why to just play that monotone? God has given you all those faculties, use them. And for that, this personal aspect, believing in the personal aspect, helps us to use all those faculties and intensify our spiritual journey. Sri Ramakrishna in some other context gives some other nice example, that when a goldsmith is smelting the gold, it needs a very high temperature. In the olden days, there was no technology to really create that high temperature. So how they used to create? The goldsmith with a pipe in his mouth is blowing at the fire so that the fire gets flared up. And there's some fan in his hand, some below. With that, he's blowing. And there's a paddle in his feet. That is also fixed to a fan. He's paddling. So now with all this, he can flare up the fire to get the optimum temperature to melt the gold. So Sri Ramakrishna is saying that use all your faculties so that you can evolve spiritually very fast. It becomes more intense. And that way we find those who believe in the personal aspect of the divine has an advantage. They can intensify the journey by resorting to all those emotional faculties and evolve spiritually at a much faster pace. And not only that, it becomes a very pleasant journey. It's not just like a playing of a monotone. It becomes very pleasant. So that's why he's saying both are true. God with form is as real as God without form. Both are real. So when someone says God is formless, so those who believe in the form of God, they say, if you say God is formless, you don't believe in the omnipotency of the Lord. There is not a single religion in the world which doesn't believe that God is all-powerful. God is omnipotent. If he is omnipotent, he has the power to do anything. How can you restrict that he is just formless? Yes, he is formless, he can take form, as he is omnipotent. If you say that he cannot take form, you are actually contradicting your own words that God is omnipotent. So that's what the devotees say. So he do take form, and a devotee can relate to the divine by resorting to the form has a lot of advantage. Swami Vivekananda gives a very nice reason that how devotion to form helps. Just see that day-to-day life, forget about God. Day-to-day life, each and every thought has two components. You'll find that when I am thinking something, you will find I am visualizing, my mind is visualizing something. Some picture is going on in my mind, and I am constantly conversing. I'm constantly conversing, and some visualization is going on. So these two are the two aspects of each and every thought. It has a name, it has a form. Now, Swamiji is saying very nice that when I am meditating on the formless aspect, on some concept of the divine, which has no form, when you're contemplating, you are taking care of the name, that name component of your thought. But the form component of your thought is left free. There is nothing to keep your mind engaged with the form component. So what happens? We also feel that I may be mechanically repeating something, but my mind is taking all sorts of pictures and it is not getting focused. So when I say that, when a devotee says, when you are meditating, think of the Lord sitting in your heart and he is having a certain form. So just see how it helps to intensify your meditation. How? That both the components of your thought are taken care of. With the visualization aspect, you are trying to keep your mind focused on that illumined form of the divine. And with the conversational form, you are repeating the name. So that way, the chance of the mind to get distracted is very less. So that's a more effective way of meditation. That's Swami Vivekananda in one of his lectures is indicating to that. So that's the things even Sri Ramakrishna is indicating in a different way, that those who believe in form, they have an advantage. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna is saying the same thing, that yes, both paths can lead us to the goal, but those who believe in the Lord, the personal aspect, for them the journey is easier. For the other, it is very, very difficult. It's not that it's not possible, that it is very difficult. So you see, the thing is somehow or other to get into the lake of the nectar of immortality. Suppose one person gets into it by propitiating the deity with hymns and worship, and you are pushed into it. The result will be this, or you are pushed into it. The result will be the same. Both of you will certainly become immortal. So that's the idea, that ultimately our goal is to be one with the divine. There are many ways. Whatever way you find is effective, where you can use your human faculties and go, why not use them? So that's the idea. So just somehow to reach that goal is our goal. How you reach it, that is immaterial. So whether someone pushes it or you propitiate some deity, and as if the deity takes you there, whatever it may be. So Yena, then even in the Bhagavatam, that idea is there. Just when a thief is going to steal, does he think that this is a legal way of stealing and that is an illegal way of stealing? No. Yena tena prakarena. By hook or by crook, I have to steal the thing. I have to just steal. I have to get the thing. That's what the thief thinks. And the same thing in the Bhagavatam, they're saying that if you're a devotee, then by hook or by crook, keep your mind in God. Yena tena prakarena Krishne mano niveshayat. Yena tena prakarena. In whatever way, I have to keep my mind in God. So that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is also indicating, that in whatever way, just to fall in that ocean of immortality is my goal. Whatever way I may be restoring you, that doesn't matter. That is immaterial. I give the Brahmos the illustration of water and ice. Satchidananda is like an endless expanse of water. The water of the great ocean in cold regions freezes into blocks of ice. Similarly, through the cooling influence of divine love, Satchidananda assumes forms for the sake of the bhaktas. The rishis had the vision of the supersensuous spirit form and talked with it, but devotees acquire a love body, and with its help, they see the spirit form of the Absolute. So, both the way that you can resort to a particular form and develop a devotion, or you can merge in the Absolute. Both actually speaks of liberation. So, it is also said that this is the thing we have to understand, that in spiritual life, what happens that when I am resorting to a particular form of the divine, how actually psychologically I am proceeding in my spiritual journey. That in Yoga Sutra, this parinama, the transformation of the mind, has been spoken of in 3 stages: sarvarthata, ekagrata, nirodha. First comes sarvarthata, the common mind, distracted mind. Now, to keep the mind in one thought, I constantly start meditating on my Ishta. It's not easy. I find my mind, again, though I'm trying to keep my mind in one thought, again and again it gets distracted. Why it happens? Because the mind gets activated by 2 things. One is, just think the mind as a lake. The surface of the lake is the conscious mind. Now, if you throw a pebble on that, if you throw a stone on that surface, it breaks into ripples. So our interaction with the world is just like throwing out the pebbles. It's constantly creating that ripples in the mind. But there's another way the surface of the lake gets disturbed. Why? How? That constantly from the bottom of the lake, the bubbles are rising. There are these air bubbles that are rising, and it comes on the surface and it bursts. So these bubbles which are coming from the bottom is the subconscious mind. It's all the thoughts which have already been stored in our psyche. They are coming and breaking on the surface, and that again disturbs the conscious mind, the surface. So when I am trying to concentrate my mind, what is happening? Consciously, I am trying to hold on to a thought, but I forget that my mind is already filled with all the subconscious impressions. They're constantly bubbling up and is not allowing my mind to keep in that one thought. I try, again I fail. I try, again I fail. Then what's the way out? What's the way out? Now we have to understand that how all those subconscious thoughts have saturated my subconscious psyche, how they have done. That maybe in this life or in some past lives, I have thought them consciously. I've thought them consciously. Every subconscious thought at some point of time was thought consciously, which has entered into my psyche and is stored there as sanskara, which comes back as memory. That's what we all understand. So many impressions has all been stored as sanskara, as latent impressions, which gets favorable circumstances and come back as memory, again bubbles up as memory. So all this subconscious thought, which is distracting me, disturbing me, maybe in this life or in some past life, has been consciously thought of again and again to concentrate my subconscious mind, to saturate my subconscious mind. So what's the clue? That what is conscious today becomes subconscious tomorrow. Then what's the way out? Even if my mind is getting distracted, let me try again and again to keep my mind fixed on that Ishtavritti. I may fail, again it will be thrown out. But each and every attempt to keep my mind in that Ishtavritti, even unknowingly, very slowly, is saturating my subconscious mind with that Ishtavritti. Because whatever is coming through the conscious mind enters the subconscious. So gradually, this Ishtavritti will start saturating the subconscious mind, and all the distractions that will get washed off. It is just like a cup full of impure water, turgid contents. It is full to the brim. And now you pour pure water in the cup. As it is already full to the brim, this turgid contents will start splashing off, will overflow, will splash off. And the pure water will gradually start entering into the cup. All the turgidity will get diluted. A time will come when all the turgidity has been washed off, has been flown off, and now the cup is full of pure water. So it may take time, but it happens gradually. So for a devotee also the same thing happens. A time comes where the thought of the divine has become habitual. Ekagra vritti. But there is a state beyond that. What is that? When this ekagra vritti becomes very intense. In this world, you will find, in this world, everything is a flow. That's why it is called samsara. Samsarate iti samsara. Everything is flowing. Even the jagat means that. From gam dhatu, the word jagat came. That everything is moving. Why this movement is there, flow is there? Because there is polarity. You will find water flows as long as there is a polarity from higher level to lower level. If both the level becomes same, the flow stops. Electricity flows from from positive to negative, higher potential to lower potential. If both the ends have same potentiality, no current. So if I can resolve the polarity, the flow stops. Why the mind is active? Because it is constantly jumping from thought to thought. How can this polarity be resolved? When ekagra vritti becomes very intense, that the one thought, the very next thought is the same thought. Previously, my mind was thinking A, B, C, D, now it's A, without any interruption. It is just thinking. It cannot continue in that state. Then suddenly we'll find the thoughts have collapsed. It has stopped. It has gone to a state of nirodha, arrested state. And then the mind for the time being is not working because all the thoughts have fallen off. And then what happens? For the first time, we realize that the consciousness in association with the mind, which was acting like a prism, just the white light falling on the prism breaks into the spectrum of 7 colors. So this consciousness in association with the mind was projecting this world of name and form. Suddenly it stops. Previously I thought this is real. Now I understand this world of name and form is no more there. Where it has gone? It has merged with the white light, with the consciousness itself. So for the first time, he realized that he's the consciousness and consciousness alone. Even the Ishtavritti has fallen off. That's no more there. It's gone. So the God with form, without form. So both actually speaks of our spiritual evolution. By resorting to the form, at last we can reach the state of formlessness, ekagra vritti. But a devotee, what he does, that when we will find that his mind is merging in the absolute, he again, because now a very interesting thing, here in this stage, what happens? It's very interesting that previously in my mind, distractions were there and I was trying to make it ekagra. As my ekagra vritti was saturating, these distractions were falling off. And even if I keep my mind ekagra, as long as the distractions has not totally been filtered out, totally been washed off, they will come now and then. Maybe previously I couldn't meditate even for 5 minutes. Now I can meditate 1 hour, 2 hours. But a time comes, it breaks. Because after all, the distractions are still there. Though it has reduced, it's still there. It comes and breaks. Now for a man, for the first time who has went to that arrested state, he cannot stay there for long. Why? Because now his subconscious mind is full of Ishtavritti. He can no more go down. Sarvarthatha has vanished, has been washed off. But his mind is now full of Ishtavritti. So that's why you will find Even in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whenever he's going to that Antardasha, the devotees sing the name of the Lord, he comes down again to the Bahya Dasha or Ardhavajya Dasha. Even in the life of Ramakrishna, we see that whenever he's going into that state of Samadhi, the devotees, by hearing the name of the Lord, he himself have instructed, take the name of the Lord. And he is coming back. Very interesting. We take the name of Lord to raise our mind. And this spiritually evolved soul is taking the name of God to come down. Very interesting. So that now you will find the question of choice is there. The one who is having a tremendous devotional temperament, he will never try to wash off his Ishta Vritti with the Nirodha Vritti. But the one who has the more inclination for the formless aspect, he will try to stay in the arrested state more and more, and that starts saturating his mind to stay in the arrested state, arrested mode, and that way all the Ishtavritti also starts getting washed off. To take him at last to that Nirvija Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That Nirvikalpa Samadhi without any Vija, the seed of even a single thought is no more there. So that's the way of the one who believes in the formless aspect. But those who believe in form, whenever the mind is going into that state, again taking the name of the Lord, coming back, they never allow the arrested state to really saturate the mind. But for both, what has happened was for both are liberated. How? Because the distractions has fallen off. That is the cause of bondage. So whether I am a devotee constantly contemplating on the divine, or has gone to the state of the formlessness where the mind has actually merged in the absolute, both are liberated. Because the cause of our bondage is all this worldly attachment. A devotee is constantly thinking, that's why he may pray that I don't even want mukti. I may have various births, but Lord, just see that my mind is always thinking of you. That's a wonderful state. Still you are mukta. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say, this bhakti, the love for the divine is not to be considered as an attachment. And he used to give some example. This hinche shak shaken muddena, that all the greens sometimes create some stomach disposition. But the hinche shak is used, that has the quality of, if you have some ailment, it cures. So hinche shak shaken muddhe noy, michri mishtir muddhe noy. The sugar candy is not to be considered as sugar. Why? As sweet. Because all sweet creates acidity. But if you have acidity, in the Kaviraj, in the traditional way of medicine, they say you dissolve this crystallized sugar, the michri, the sugar candy, in water, and that water, which the sugar candy dissolved in it, that acts as an antacid. So that it has just the opposite effect. So the love for the God has the opposite effect. It has enabled us to get rid of all the desires. It has the opposite effect. So it is not to be considered as an attachment. So it leads us to that liberation. Whether I am a devotee or I am in the absolute, both are liberated, because all the things which gravitates us down to this worldly plane of existence, all this attachment to kama, kanchana, lust and goal, that has vanished. So nothing is there to gravitate me down to this worldly plane of existence. The devotees believe in a heaven where he is in eternal companionship with the divine. He's not emerging with the divine. That's quite good. That you, in your mind, just as if eternally, is in communion with the divine. Your mind has not vanished with your mind, but that mind at the same time, as it is not having any worldly desires, it is not gravitated down to this worldly plane. Because it is, as long as we have the desires, we have to come down to this plane of existence to fulfill those desires. I cannot just fulfill those desires in the mental plane. I have to come down. But when that is God, when that all those have washed away, I'm constantly happy with the contemplation of the divine. I need not have to come down. Even after death, I can stay in this, all the ideas of Brahma Loka, Vaikuntha is that. I'm staying in a mental plane without the need to coming down. In the state of Videha, there is no need for Deha. just in that state, constantly I am in contemplation of the divine, and that is as good as mukti. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying very nicely. That's how all the paths can be accepted. How nicely he has integrated that this practice, that is more important. Just don't develop that holier than thou attitude by thinking my path is correct and constantly quarreling with others. Whatever you believe, whatever your choice is, hold on to that, practice, and transcend this worldly plane of existence. All these practices do have meaning if you can transcend and get established into that higher plane of existence. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. So, the nature of Brahman cannot be described, but about it one remains silent who can explain the infinite in words. However high a bird may soar, there are regions higher still. What do you say? So this is the idea that he's speaking of, merging in the absolute. This both he's taking. So this merging in the absolute, he's trying to describe in his succeeding words. From this portion, again, we will take up. There are so many ideas. We need not just go on discussing so that all the ideas get jumbled up. So this idea, the nature of Brahman that cannot be described, it is Avang Manasogocharam. From this portion, we will again take up in the next class. The discussion will continue again in the next class. So with this, we conclude our discussions today. Thank you all. Namaskar.